Really super excited to be here today. We have a super special guest, Dr. Dave Martin, and this is going to be great for listeners. Going to get tons of value. He's got a massive network, and it's for good reason. Author, speaker, pastor. Geez, what else, Dave? You got a whole laundry list. College athlete, and goes on and on and on. And we met really cool, like through our sons. They
Yeah.
were really best friends. I mean, they're still talking now. They're in different states, and Gabe definitely misses Solly for sure being around. And Solly's spent, man, he must have spent the night at our house 30 to 50 times. I don't know,
At,
but
at,
great kid.
at least you have way more fun stuff at your house, I think.
Goofy kid for sure. I like
Yeah.
him. I thought
Yeah,
it was Sully.
you've been in,
Yeah,
yeah.
I called him Sully. That's my fault.
Yeah. I wanted him to bring me to spend the night too. Yeah, you have all the fun stuff over there. So,
Yeah, they go up and they have fun with the movie theater and golf simulator and stuff. But yeah, really cool. So really thankful to have you on our show today. And we thought we'd help out our listeners and see if we can't get them motivated. As how appropriate is that? But
yeah.
maybe yeah, I'd love to hear, what got you going? What got you started, even like as a kid, because there's something inside of you that was built for greatness and scale that you've created things. And, becoming a college athlete, like that's, it's a special human to do that, to play college football. But like, walk us through that.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in a small town in Mississippi, and my dad was a minister. So I grew up
Hmm.
in church, small church, but a small town. Everything was kind of small. And, and I learned a long time ago, I left Mississippi long before Mississippi left me. A big part of what I've been able to achieve through God's grace and gifts, but it had to do with my mindset, right? I had to change my thinking, and I know you guys talk about that, and I know you've done that.
For
But
sure.
growing up there, playing sports, that really is probably what got me into personal growth and development, and just trying to do better.
Yeah.
Learning from coaches, and then the athletic side of things, and always thought, I'll probably just be a minister like my dad, and felt that. But then as things progressed, some things opened up in the corporate arena, and kind of turned around from there. It all started probably back in the 90s. Not long, I was in my mid 20s, and I had went to this event called Get Motivated. It was at the Reunion Arena in Dallas, Texas, and I heard this guy for the very first time by the name of Zig Ziglar,
Oh
and
yeah.
he starts talking, and I've never heard anything like this before. I mean, other than sports, all I knew was really church. And someone spoke; they were preaching a message or speaking a sermon, and
Right.
and I hear this guy, and I'm like, this appeals to me. This is speaking to me. I
Yeah.
want to do that. And I had no idea how I would ever do that or how it ever come about. But I said, that's one day I want to do that. And I remember I had the magazine that they gave away that day. And it was in a drawer for a long time. And between the time I went to that and a few years later, I heard about building a dream wall and having a vision board, and I learned those kind of things. I'd never had one before, and I found that magazine, and I'm like, wait, this is what I need to do. And I cut a picture of that off the front of that magazine, of that big arena full of people, and I put it up. I said, one day I want to do that. And of course, it was on my dream wall for a long
Hmm.
time. When I learned the power of, something has to be seeable before it's believable, believable before it's achievable. And I began to look at it, begin to see it every day. And throughout that time, I did several different things, and in work, and working for other organizations, and starting to speak some. But then years went by, and I was in a little place in Huntsville, Alabama. Ran into a couple that was working in a green room, and fixing some coffee or tea, that
Yep.
kind of thing. And we got to talking, and they said, have you ever heard of an organization or an event called Get Motivated? I said, Yeah, I've
Yeah.
heard of that. They said we think we work for Get Motivated. It's in based out of Tampa, but we live here. But we feel like maybe we're supposed to introduce you to the owner of Get Motivated. Now here's the thing. For years, I've been speaking at different events. Well, the owner, Peter Lowe, was the owner for years. I was speaking at a big leadership event, a Christian leadership event in Hawaii. He was there, and I thought, oh, he's going to hear me, and this is my chance. He's going to hear me
Right.
go, oh, you got to be on my tour. He heard me, and he said, hey, nice job, and he just walked away. I thought, oh, shoot. A few years later, I'm in West Palm Beach, Florida speaking. He's on the front row. I'm like, well, this is the second time. This has got to be the time.
Right.
Everything's going to change. He heard me afterwards, and he said, oh, hey, great job. Good to see you again. And he left. I'm like, what in the world? I said, I guess, well, you know what? One day I still want to do this. I don't know how it's going to happen. Anyway, this couple, through that time, Peter Lowe no longer owned the company. A different guy owns the company now. This couple introduces me to that. I said, you be nice to everybody, right?
Right.
I'm like, be nice to the chauffeur. He may be your only ride to the palace. And it was a couple in Alabama working in a green room who happened to know the owner, who got me a connection with him. He said, I'll put you on our stage one time. We'll see how it goes. And, I'll do that for them. And I said, well, great. I said, well, I'm going to be in Tampa. Could we get together for a coffee or something? He said, you know what? Yeah, I'll meet you at Starbucks at this corner, Dale Mabry. I got 15 minutes. I said, all right, I'll be there. Well, that 15 minutes turned into 2.5 hours. And by the end of the 2.5 hours, he put me on the tour without ever hearing me on every event. And here's the amazing part. Since that time when I heard Zig Ziglar in the mid-90s, of course, Zig's passed away. And he said, I have the perfect spot I want to put you in. I want to put you in the morning in Zig Ziglar's spot.
Oh my
Come
gosh.
on.
And here we are 20 something years later, and now I'm speaking in Zig's spot on the stage in the Get Motivated tour. And it was just incredible. But it shows you the power of vision, the power of your mindset, and how, my goodness, someone from Mississippi. I thought the only good thing to come out of Mississippi was Interstate 10. But I didn't turn out too bad. So yeah, it's been quite a journey. There's a whole lot of things in between there, but a big part of the success that I've been able to achieve is great mentors. They always say there's 3 ways to learn. You can learn from mistakes, which is the slowest way to learn, but it's a good way. I mean, you got to learn from your mistakes.
Right.
You can learn from mentors, which is a much better way to learn. I'd rather learn from someone else's mistakes than from my own.
Right.
That, there's no shortcut to success. I said, well, no, a good mentor is your shortcut to success. I called a mentor the other day. I said, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? He said, I wouldn't do that if I was you. I said, well, I think it sounds like a great idea. He said, yeah. He said, so did I.
Been there.
He'd already done it. Well, he just saved me 3 months of work, $70,000 of investment, because he'd already done what I was thinking. So a good mentor can change everything. And then, of course, the third way to get wisdom is money. You can buy wisdom. And
3 M's.
I got 4,000 books. Why? There's too much stuff I don't know. The difference from where you are to where you want to be, I'm sure all of us would say, I'd like to be doing better than I'm doing right now in some area of our life.
Right.
And I think the difference between where you are and where you want to be is just what you know. And when I really began to understand that, I understood I don't want to be a know-it-all. I want to be a learn-it-all. And so I began to buy books and go to seminars and invest in conferences. And what don't I know? I'm going to find out what I don't know and change it. So that's been kind of my journey along the way.
That's fantastic. That's so
I'll
great.
shut up. I don't know if I'm talking too much.
No, you're doing great. There's so many nuggets in there, and you've got so many, things that are we all can learn from. So
I just gotta
love
say
it.
something real quick. I mean, Zig Ziglar, are you kidding me? I don't think his voice is comparable to anyone. Whenever I hear him, I'll tune in. I need to listen to it more, but once a month, I'm like, this guy's amazing. But I tell you what, you got that Southern accent too, and you got your own unique voice. I bet it was tough to replace him though. For sure.
Yeah, I sure didn't try.
Yeah.
Um, I was glad to be in the spot, but there's only one zig. What a friend of mine wrote a book. You were born an original, don't die a copy.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
He's so
uh,
good.
you gotta be you. You gotta unwrap, and I've learned that along the way too. I mean, when you said I was on tour with the guys from Shark Tank, you sharing the stage with Tony Robbins
Wow.
and people like that, and you're like, well, my goodness, if I try to be them,
Yeah.
you gotta be you. You gotta find your gift. You gotta
Right.
find your voice, and people gotta understand life is a gift, right?
Right.
I was there the other day. Was my wife and I's anniversary, and
Happy
talking about
anniversary.
gifts. She woke up. She said, today's our anniversary, honey. I said, I know. She said, I had a dream last night that you were going to give me a diamond necklace for our anniversary. She said, what do you think that means? I said, well, when we go to dinner tonight, you'll find out what it means. And so I took her to dinner that night. I gave her a gift, and she was ripping the paper off that thing. And I'd bought her a book on the meaning of dreams. I had no idea what that dream meant, but gifts. Anyway, life is a gift, and I think if we'll learn to unwrap it, make the most of it,
Yeah.
it can change. It
Yeah.
can change everything.
I don't know if Christine would laugh over that one or not. I'm not sure. I know Christine pretty well.
Yeah, well, her mom's got the same sense of humor because a couple of Christmases ago, I got her mom a gift for Christmas. I got her a cemetery plot for my mother-in-law. I didn't get her anything last year, and she was bad. She goes, "You didn't give me anything for Christmas this year." I said, "You didn't even use what I got you last year." Go, all right.
He's a comedian too.
Yes,
Yes.
he's super funny. He's got tons of one-liners, man. I tell you. Oh man. So, vision. You have to have it. And how do you teach others to create vision? What are some of the things that maybe you help others create the vision? And it goes both ways. If you have limited vision, then you're stuck, and you can't. If you never see that next level, and you're never going to get there. But just
Yeah,
curious.
if you can't see it, right? The me I see is the me I'll be, right? That you
Yeah.
gotta see where you want to go. You'll never leave where you're at until you decide where you'd rather be. And so many people get stuck just that day-to-day grind. And I don't like what I do here. I don't like what I do there. But when you're not doing what you love, I found this: when people do what they love, when you do what you love rewards you.
Yeah.
Right? Tiger Woods loves golf. Golf rewards him. LeBron James loves basketball. Basketball rewards him. When you're doing what you love, and so many people, they can't get a vision because they're just doing the day to day. I talked to a guy one day. He's like, "I hate my job." I said,
Your
"How
job
long have you
hates
worked
you.
there?" He said, "I've worked there for 27 years." I said,
Oh my
"Why would you
gosh.
work somewhere for 27 years if you hate it?" He said, "Well, I didn't hate it the whole time." I said, "Well, how long have you hated it?" He said, 26. I said, "Well, why did you keep going?" I have a friend who's a very famous doctor, and he started out as a family doctor. And I said, "Well, you don't do that anymore." He said, "No." He said, I didn't really like it." I said, "So you went to school all those years to be a family doctor? He said, "No, I didn't like it. I went into plastic surgery." I said, "Wow." I never even knew he did plastic surgery. He goes, "Yeah, I didn't really like that either." I said, "So you just quit?" He said, "Well, life's too short to keep doing stuff you don't like." And I said,
Yeah.
"Well, what did you do after that?" He said, "I did hair transplants for a while." And I said, "Do you have a card I can get?" No. He said, "I don't do that anymore either." Now he writes books. You'll see him on Dr. Oz. You see him on Good Morning America. He's a big writer of
Yeah.
health books and those kind of things. He said, "Now I've discovered what I love to do." So he goes and he teaches health and on stress management and all that kind of stuff. And he said, life's too short. Find what it is you love to do. Discovering your passion, I think, is a key to really getting a vision of where it is you want to go. Because most people go through life, you'll be remembered for your passion, or you'll be forgotten for your lack of it. And
Yeah.
a lot of people go through life with no passion. So
Right.
when you have no passion, you have no vision for the future.
Yeah. That's really good. Part of what we do at Ideal Traits is putting the right person in the right seat. And a lot of times, we're consulting with business owners and we're saying, Like, look at their personality doesn't suit this role. They're not happy, and you're not happy. And if like it's like if you don't love your job's not loving you. Like, this is not a great situation. So,
Yeah.
find the right role that you do love it. And man, it's just ironic that I literally woke up yesterday, and going like, man, I love what I do. Like it, and then it never feels like work. It
Right.
never feels like work when you just have passion for
Yeah.
what you're doing. So much
And
fun.
it's amazing me how many people go through life with no passion for anything.
Yeah.
Just getting through the day. If I can just get through today, that's why there's a big term now in business psychology called AWP, absent while present. Right? How many people are at work all day, but they're not really there? They're
Yeah.
at the desk, they're at the computer, but they're not passionate. They're not there. They're on Facebook. They're doing this or that,
Yeah.
and because they haven't discovered. So what you do with that is helping people find their passion.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you love to do, and plugging them into those kind of positions, which makes all the difference in the world,
Yeah. So true.
especially for their productivity, right?
Right. Right. No question about that. Yeah.
The vision board is huge. I remember I was a senior and I was at a point, I was working at Ideal Traits interning, but I still was like, I had, I think, a semester. I'm like, I don't know what I want to do. And my college professor told me to do a vision board. And I was like,
Mhm.
that sounds stupid. Right?
Yeah.
Just like, I'm a college student. I'm an idiot. And I did it and I had a blast doing it. And I still have it. I whipped it out the other day. And I was so proud of it too. Cause I'm like, I'm actually matching a lot of
Yeah.
this because it's stuck in my head.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
would say that is definitely taking an assessment is something you should do to see what you'd be good at.
Right.
But then doing a vision board of like, okay, here's the things I like in life and here's what I want. Okay, well, what kind of, jobs are out there, careers out there that
Mhm.
could match up and give me a lifestyle like this? I think that's
Yeah.
pretty
And,
big.
it starts with people say, well, I don't even know where I'd start. I said, everyone's got someplace you'd like
Yeah.
to take your family on vacation. I was, oh,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
That's one of the first
Yeah.
things I did. I wanted to
Right.
take my family on the Disney cruise.
Nice.
So I cut a picture of the boat out. I put it on the wall. I wanted to build a pool. What do I want that pool to look like? Well, I saw a picture in a magazine. I got it, put it on my wall.
Yeah.
I wanted to
Yeah.
build a podcast studio. Well, what kind of microphone do I want? What kind of equipment? Let me cut pictures of those and put them on the wall.
Yeah.
I had a goal to give. I wanted to be able to give away $100,000 at one time. So I wrote a check for $100,000. I put it up on the wall, and I begin. You look at it every day, right? And I've been doing this with my son since he was probably, 6 or 7 years old.
Mhm.
New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, every year we get a poster board, bunch of magazines, and whether it's a pair of shoes or whether one thing that's been on his vision board for years is to play football at LSU. That's his dream. I want to go to
Oh.
LSU and play football. And he's finished his senior year. We've not heard anything from LSU. We got some offers from this college or that college, but just literally yesterday, he calls me in the morning, just freaking out, and he got his first email from a coach at LSU on
Oh,
more footage, wanting to talk to him,
Oh wow.
loving
How
what he's
cool.
done. And I said, "See, son, for years you've been buying the LSU bracelets, and you've been wearing you've been seeing yourself playing for LSU, and now we're beginning to see the manifestation of the vision of what you saw." And so I think that's so. And when other people say, "You'll never be able to do that. You'll never play there. You'll never," we made the investment to make some different scenarios to put him
Yeah.
in a better opportunity for it. And but he had a vision a long
Yeah.
time ago. And so I say it over and over, something has to be seeable before it's believable, believable before it's achievable. And a
Mhm.
lot of times it's just, I never knew that, never knew how to do that, never even thought of putting something on a wall just to look at it. But you
Right.
start seeing it in front of you
Yeah.
every day. I take time. I learn from Jim Rohn. I've got
Oh, yeah.
mentors. I've never met Jim Rohn, but
Mhm.
he's been an incredible mentor in my life, right? I've listened to everything I can find, every book, every video, every YouTube. I'm gonna listen over and over again.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I learned from him was that moment, taking time to visualize the day. What do I want that to look like? Where am I going with it? Whether it's your
Yeah.
goals for the day. I do a lot of I've done a lot of speaking for Mary Kay Cosmetics. And
Mm.
one thing I learned from Mary Kay Ash, although I never met her, I read her book. I love biographies because, like I said, a book is amazing. What took someone their entire lifetime to learn, you can get a book, and in a
Mm.
few hours, you can learn in 3 hours for $20
Right.
what took them a lifetime to figure out.
Right.
You'd be crazy not to buy books.
Yeah.
And I read her book, and one thing she did every day was at the beginning of the day, she made a list of, here's 6 things I want to do today. I need to do today. And she would prioritize those. And then she never did number 4 until she did 1 through 3. She never did number 6 till she did 1 through 5. She didn't
Right.
jump around. She thought it out, visualized it, prioritized it, and then did it in order of priority.
Mhm.
And, you know, she's formed a pretty good organization that carries on today, helped a lot of women-owned businesses, and a lot of women start their own businesses. So
Did they give you a
I think
pink
it's
Cadillac?
just incredible.
Did they give you a pink Cadillac?
They didn't, but I do have a pink jacket that I would wear when I would speak.
The cool thing about vision boards is we did that at Allstate every single year, beginning of the year. Everyone, you know, we went to actually this art studio, and so we had everyone set it out, tons of magazines, filled them all out, and then as a business owners to be able to see what your people are doing. Now you want to get things accomplished. They're more interested in accomplishing their own goals. And so when you can tie your goals to their goals and make it make sense, and then they know that you really care about them, and you talk about that Disney vacation that they want to go on, and then you might tie that back to their goal by the end of the month. Like, I know this is going to help you achieve your goal of going to Disney if you hit your goal here. So
Yeah.
love the vision board,
And
and we did it. So Nolan did it this year with all of our department heads. So he's got his vision
You'd
board
have him do it every year,
in
though?
his office.
Like they would do a new one?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
Matt Saint would
New
do a
one.
new one
Yeah.
every year? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so your vision changes, too.
Yeah, you
It
can
alters.
do that. And you know what? And I'm kicking myself now because I did it with the kids. We did it 2 or 3 years, and I haven't done it in a while. And we got a new year coming. So guess what? We're breaking out the vision
yeah,
boards.
yeah. And like you
You
said,
know,
it changes. So you take stuff,
Yeah.
you know, the Disney cruise. I don't have that up there. I've been on 19 Disney cruises now, so it's not up there anymore. But there's different things. You know, I've given the $100,000 a couple times, so that's not up there anymore. But now there's new goals. There's new things. I'm in the podcast studio that I envisioned years ago. So it's always changing. I tell people all the time, I write my goals in pencil because things change. You know, your definition of
erase.
success today is different than it was 5 years ago,
Yeah.
right? If you think 5 years from now, your definition of success will be different than it is today. So things are changing. John Maxwell and I were sitting the other day at dinner, and we were talking about, you know, how do you set goals for, like, what else do you want to do? He's 76 years old. And he said, you know, honestly, Dave, I've never really set a lot of goals. I said, really? He said, no, I've just kind of lived into where I am today, just day by day. And I thought, wow, you know, I do the vision board, but I don't really write down a whole lot of, like, by the end of this year, I want to do this, or by 5 years from now. I've just kind of lived into the moment, and I've been amazed at where I've ended up sometimes. So I believe in goals, and I'm not saying don't ever do goals,
Right.
but I'm saying a lot of times things are changing so quickly. We got to be ready for what comes up at the moment. What opportunity arises, I'm ready for any opportunity as it arises. So I made a lot of mistakes along the way. I mean, who hasn't, right?
Right.
If you've never made a mistake, you probably never made anything. We've all made
Never went for it.
some mistakes.
Yeah.
And one thing, I wrote a book. I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of professional athletes. And so working with a lot of NBA players, one day I was sitting in the lobby of the Island Hotel in Newport, California with Kobe Bryant. And Kobe had set the record for the most missed shots in the history of the NBA. You think, wow, how'd you like that record? The most missed shots.
Which they go with.
And what's amazing is 7 days after he set the record for the most missed shots, he passed up a guy by the name of Michael Jordan for the most points scored during his career.
Yeah.
So the
awesome.
same guy with the most missed shots passes up the greatest player of all time. I'm like, how did you do that? He said, Dave, was real simple. I just took another shot.
Kept
I said,
shooting.
how simple is that? You can't let the fear of failure or the fear of criticism keep you from trying again.
Hmm.
We're all going to miss some shots. We're all going to miss some sales. We're all going to miss. What do? Take another shot. And that's where I got the title for a book. One of the books I wrote, it's called Another Shot. And there's a great quote on the back of this book by Evander Holyfield. And I'm mentioning his name because I'm not just trying to drop names. I just want you to know what the 5-time heavyweight champion of the world said about my book. No, if anything I've learned from spending time with Oprah, it's that you shouldn't drop names. But I'm kidding. I've never even met Oprah. But Evander Holyfield said, it's not getting knocked down that makes you lose the fight. It's not getting back up.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Entrepreneurs, salespeople, you're going to have some knockdowns. What do? Get back up, take another shot. And it worked out pretty good for Kobe in his athletic career. I think it'll work out pretty good for you. Don't let the fear of failure keep you from trying again.
Yeah. How'd you get in a room with Kobe? How does that even?
I started working with a couple other players and a coach, and then that coach opened up an opportunity for me to speak at another one of the teams.
Yeah.
And from there, just kind of, I call it favor. Some people don't understand favor, but I think sometimes God just shines his face on you. I can't explain half the moments. I mean, I get 15 minutes with the owner of Get Motivated, and I end up 2.5 hours.
Right.
How did that happen? I don't know. I just think God shines his face on us sometimes.
Right.
And I can go through a lot of my career and people I know. It's just, and I could just share story after story of how in the world, how did you get connected with John Maxwell? It was just a crazy story of how it happened. I was trying to get a hold of him. I couldn't get a hold of him. I wanted him to write. Well, he wrote the little endorsement for this book, 12 Traits of the Greats. And I was trying to get a hold of him because he had quoted me in one of his books. Now, I'd met him once or twice speaking, like just passing in a green room, but I wanted to see if he'd write something for this book and tried to get a hold of him. Nothing. I'm at the Gaylord Hotel in Denver, and I walk into the concierge lounge, and my assistant was in the room talking to John Maxwell. And I'm like, what are you doing here? He's like, well, I'm here for this conference. It was the same conference I was at. I didn't even know he was going to be there, the National Speakers Association. And they were giving him a special award. So he came in for this Lifetime Achievement Award. So I said, I've been trying to get a hold of you. I've got this book, and I wanted to see if you'd write an endorsement. You quoted me from this book, and it's the anniversary of this book. He's like, yeah, well, send it to my assistant, and we'll look at it. Well, okay, I know what that is.
Kevin and I do too.
Okay, I'll do that. And then he's leaving the room. I said, hey, I don't know if you have time in the morning. Do you have to do breakfast, or do you have time for lunch? He's like, yeah, I don't really eat breakfast, but maybe, we'll see. I go, okay. Do you want me to call your room? How do you want me to get in touch with you to see about that lunch? He's like, we'll figure it out. And I said, okay. And he walked out the door, and I'm like, well, shoot. Well, later that night, we were at a dinner, and he's, of course, guest of honor. So he's sitting with a mentor of mine, a guy by the name of Nido Qubein. I don't know if you've ever heard of Nido Qubein, but he's one of the most brilliant. He's one of the last living legends. If you go into the National Speakers Association with Zig, Jim Rohn, Nido Qubein, which a lot of people don't know who he is. He's now the president of High Point University in High Point, North Carolina. But anyway, so he's friends with Nido, and he's sitting with Nido, and I walk up and I said, hey, Nido, I'm talking to Nido. And he's like, you've met John? I go, yeah, we've actually met before, but I saw him today. And he goes, hey, we're going to do lunch tomorrow, right? Yeah. He goes, all right, here's my cell number. Just let me know where. Okay. I don't know what changed in the last, 8 hours, but sounds good to me. Yeah. And the next day I go to meet him for an hour for lunch. Again, ends up about 2 hours. And And he said, we got to get together. I want you to meet my CEO. I think there's some stuff we could do together. Sounds great. I said, well, when can we meet? He said, well, maybe we could meet next week. Could you fly to Florida? I said, well, yeah, tomorrow I'm flying to Alabama. I'll be at a conference there. He said, is it the Grow conference?
Mhm.
I said, actually, it is. He said, I'm coming to that. I'm speaking at that on Wednesday. I said, are you serious? We've never run in. Now, all of a
Yeah.
sudden, 2 days later, we're going to be at the same conference. My CEO will be with me. I get there. The guy hosting the conference on Monday says, hey, John Maxwell's coming. Have you been with him or ever had any time with him? I said, I just really had a time with him yesterday.
Right.
He goes, we're going hunting in 2 weeks. You should go with us. Sounds good. I've never been
Right.
hunting, but I can learn. I can YouTube it. We'll figure it out. Let's go. And so
Love
I said,
that
yes.
attitude.
So we end up at this hunting trip together. He's flying on he goes, hey, listen, I'm going to take my jet. I've got to go to Baltimore. The rest of you can go on this other jet. You're going back to Atlanta. And I said, where are you going in Baltimore? I'm actually flying back to Atlanta, and then I'm going to Baltimore because I'm speaking tomorrow in Baltimore. He's like, well, if we're both going to Baltimore, just come with me on my plane.
Oh
And so
my
I end up
gosh.
flying with him on his plane. So now there's 4 more hours we have, just him and I.
Wow.
And from there, 2 weeks later, we're both in Minneapolis at the same hotel, and we spend the evening watching football. It was just within like 30 days, all this stuff came together, which could not have been made up, could not
So
have
cool.
been figured out. But I wrote a whole book about it. I call it The Force of Favor, right there. Just one
That's
moment
right.
of God's favor could change everything. God just shines his face on you. Some people say you're in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And that's been my life. I can tell you story and story of over and over of how I ended up. How'd you become friends with that person? How do you know Joel Osteen? How do you know this person? And again, just I couldn't have made it up. I couldn't have figured it out. I'm not cool enough or smart enough, but God just graced me with some opportunities, and here I am. So
You're
Well,
pretty cool,
just-
Dave.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm
And he
just still
definitely-
relying on that.
You definitely have a lot of favor. Well, that is for sure. But you put
And then
yourself
Kevin asked me to be on y'all's podcast. I'm like, when can it keep getting better?
right. This is the highlight. Now, let's be honest. We were on your vision board beginning of the year, right?
Yes. Your picture, because I just trying to lose weight and I wanted to look like you. And so I put your picture up there. And
Yeah. Well, we're still in John Maxwell's assistance to the assistants inbox. So we're gonna put John
Anything you can do to
Maxwell
help us out.
on our vision board.
If you know
to
what I'm
be on-
saying.
Yeah. Oh, so super cool. So you were hunting, and I know you were just recently hunting with them too. Like you guys were doing some bird hunting.
we were just together in September
Yeah.
for that. Then I was just with him last week. We were in Vegas. We
Did
were
you use
we
your
were both
favor in
again in
Vegas?
another city. He's like, "What are you doing tomorrow?" I said, "I'm flying back home." He goes, "Just come with me." And I jumped on the plane, went with him to Vegas for a couple of days. And I'm like, you know how much people would pay to have a few hours with John Maxwell?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's just been crazy how it's come together like that.
Yeah. Now, does favor work at the tables in Vegas?
Depends on what you're gonna do with the money, I guess. If you're
right. You're right. Like, I swear I'm going to
God.
donate it back to the church.
Yeah, I'll give it to the church. God, I had a guy wanted me to pray for his lottery ticket one time.
No.
Did you?
Did you pray for my lottery ticket? I said, I don't know if I could pray for a lottery ticket to win. I don't know if God, he's like,
Right.
listen, if I win, it was a big one. It was like 184 million or something. He goes, if I win, he said, I'll give 10% to the church, 18 million. And I said, well, in that case, in the name of Jesus.
Oh,
You know, it's funny.
That's
in
awesome.
the beginning of the story, when the way you were describing it with you and John Maxwell, how you just kept trying to get his attention and he kept throwing you off. Like, for some reason, I thought of Happy Gilmore, where Shooter and that guy kept trying to get his attention. You want
Right.
Shooter? Can we get some lunch after this? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Hey, well, no problem. How about breakfast the next day? It's like you were very persistent, and then all of a sudden, it just
Yeah.
worked out for you.
Mhm.
And now he
Yeah.
loves your company, which is super cool to see.
But
Yeah,
it's fun
I
when
said, you
you
gotta just follow the path, right? Follow the path of favor.
yeah,
As the opportunities open, I've just walked through the doors, and it's been amazing. Like I said earlier, be nice to the chauffeur. Maybe your only ride to the
Right.
palace, right? You
yeah,
just
I
don't know
wrote
who's
that
going to
down.
open up the opportunity or the door for the next
yeah,
step along the journey. And it's being prepared. We've heard that a million times. When what success is when preparation meets opportunity,
right,
right?
sure.
And so it's being prepared. It's spending
Yeah,
time learning and growing, getting the wisdom. So when the opportunity does come, I try to learn something every day.
mhm,
If you want tomorrow to be different than today, learn something today that will make tomorrow different.
right.
If you go into tomorrow with the same information you have today, you won't really have it tomorrow. You'll just have a longer today. So today's going to be just like tomorrow unless I learn
Groundhog Day.
something today
Yeah.
that will make it different. And
Yeah,
so I've just applied myself to continual growth and learning. And I guess my journey to that really personal growth, I was studying a guy by the name of Sir Edmund Hillary. You may have heard of him. He's the first man to ever summit Mount Everest. First guy. I thought,
yeah,
one day he got up and he climbed up to the top, and other people tried, didn't make it. I didn't know his story. I didn't know that he didn't make it the first time he tried. He didn't make it the second time that he tried. And he looked at Mount Everest, and one of the quote that stood out to me the most, he looked at Mount Everest and he spoke to the mountain, and he said, I will come again and conquer you, because as a mountain, you cannot grow, but as a human, I can.
mm,
And I thought, wow, as a human, I'm going to have mountains. I'm going to have things that I deal with, obstacles. But as a human, I have the ability to grow, to develop, to work on my mindset, to put a personal growth plan together. And growth is not automatic, right? It's your responsibility to grow.
right.
It's your responsibility to learn. They say there's no I in team, but boy, there's a whole lot of I's in responsibility.
Yeah,
Um, there's like three of them. I can't blame others. That's one we always like to do. Well, it's the government's fault. It's my parents' fault. It's my employee's fault. It's my
mhm,
employer's fault. We can always blame other people. But until you're willing to take responsibility, tomorrow's going to be just like today. And so I had to take responsibility to learn, to grow.
right.
And I began to study great achievers and what made them different, what made them great on the baseball field, the battlefield, the business field. And I began to discover qualities in their life. And that's where I wrote the book 12 Traits, 12 Traits of the Greats, after studying thousands of hours of studying great achievers to find out what made them great, what made them different than anyone else. And one of the things was they continued to learn, right? What
Mm,
is it? John Wooden, who said, what counts most is what you learn after you know it all.
yeah,
And a lot
right.
of times, the more you learn, the less you think you have to learn, or the less you quit growing. And if you quit
Yeah,
growing, you're dying.
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
so vital that we continue to learn and move forward every day of our life.
yeah. I mean, as soon as you feel like you got it all figured out, it's like someone's passing you up right now. If
Right?
you can't
Yeah.
figure out a
And,
way
and
and
if you
get
don't keep growing, you'll
uncomfortable,
become a fossil pretty quick. Sorry, go ahead, Kevin.
yeah, no, it's just like I mean, you got to get yourself in an uncomfortable state. You've never been there before, and then that's how you can just learn and continue to grow. But boy, to get stuck in your ways, that's a scary thought for me
Yeah.
to if I ever get that way, like no opportunity to grow and learn. I mean, every day I'm, listening to it's a part of my daily routine is to
It,
listening to
it's that
podcasts and
mindset, that
yeah,
a mindset of growth, a mindset to understand you don't know everything. And
right.
and I think most of our limitations um, happen in our thinking. Before
Self-limitation, yeah.
it, I had the opportunity again, crazy opportunity to spend some time and be mentored by a guy named Wayne Dyer, who's passed
Oh
away.
yeah.
Say, how did you get time? People are like, how did you get time with Wayne Dyer? And I was in Hawaii speaking at an event. I'm standing in the lobby. Wayne Dyer walks by with his shorts, no shirt on, headed out to the. I'm like, was that Wayne Dyer?
Mhm.
And I just ran out to the lobby. I'm like, I'll be back. I go, aren't you Wayne Dyer? He's like, yes, I am. And I said, oh my gosh, I've always wanted to meet you. Oh my goodness. And we start talking. And he's like, how long are you here? I said, I'm here for about 4 days at this conference. He goes, well, I live just up the road. Here's my number. Give me a call. Why don't you come up to the house?
You'd have to be
I just
persistent with
watched
him.
you on PBS specials. I've never
Yeah.
done,
Right?
but and the next thing I know, I'm at the house, and he becomes a friend the last couple of years before he passes away.
Oh,
And that's where this book, Mindset Matters, change your mind, change your world. You change the way you look
Yeah.
at things, the things that you're looking at will begin to change.
Yeah.
And he really helped me see that that's where it all begins, right? We need to check up from the neck up, to get rid of our stinking thinking,
Right.
and so often we limit ourselves by our own thinking. The key to thinking big is
Mhm.
exposure. So I'm careful to continue to put myself in positions around people that are doing better than me, people that know more than I know. I want to go to hotels that are nicer
yeah.
than hotels I've been at before. Whatever it is,
Yeah.
I want to see something big. Any chance I can get to the ocean, look at something big God created, some mountains, something big. Anytime I see bigger things, it makes me think bigger. And
Yeah.
so I'm always looking for a bigger picture of something that I can see.
Love that.
But here's the thing that you do is there were other people in the lobby, right? There were other people that were surrounded by John Maxwell and other people that were surrounded by Joel Osteen. You chose to take action like immediately. Like your first response was, "Oh my gosh, I've got to go see him. I have to go meet him." And you took action. And when other people would create this story in their head like, "Oh shoot, like I missed him because he just walked out the door instead of
Yeah.
moving forward." And we have to act on these opportunities that come. And it I always go back to Tony Robbins. He talks about the reticulating activating system in the RAS, and there's so much information that comes in, and you're one for sure that you only see the things that are going to support your views of growth, and you can see that you're going to meet great people, and you do, and all the things you manifest first, but you have to take the steps. You have to
Yeah.
move. You have to get your body in action in order to
Yeah,
make it
well,
happen.
I live in constant expectation of something
Yeah.
good happening,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
I say it all the time. The rest of my life is
Right.
going to be the best of my life.
Yeah.
So how is the rest of my life going to be the best of my life? Well, when I see Wayne Dyer walk by, I figured that must be God put him there because he wants me to meet him. So why would I waste that opportunity?
Yeah.
And because I'm constantly expecting favor, I'm
Right.
constantly expecting those kind of moments. So when I go into it, I expect, and I had to work on that. I wasn't naturally an optimist. It's something I work on every day on my
Yeah.
mind, thinking. I mean, I was born a pessimist. I was a poor kid, grew up in Mississippi. We were so
Wow.
poor. My dad told us if the ice cream truck was playing music, that meant they were out.
Mhm.
So, so we were poor growing up, but I mean, I was so negative. Even my blood type is B negative, right? So I had to decide to be positive, and I had to make some changes, and so now I continually, and I've got to work on it daily because it's easy to go to well, that's not going to work out. What if it does?
Right.
What if it doesn't? What is? I learned this from Tony Robbins. Worry is just bad use of your imagination.
Yeah.
Right? When we worry about something, we're using our imagination
Yeah.
in the negative. I've got a
Right.
whole chapter in
Right.
this book, 12 Traits of the Greats, on imagination, because all I got to do instead of imagining it going wrong,
Imagine
what if I
right.
imagined it going right? And if you get what you see and you get what you think,
Mhm.
you're gonna move toward what goes right.
Yeah.
Is everything perfect? Of course not. Does everything always turn out perfect? No. But my expectation is that it will. So when moments like that come, when Al Pacino is sitting next to me on the airplane, I figured
Come
that's
on.
for a reason. There must be a reason I'm supposed to know Al Pacino. You know, I don't know what it is. Um, he did sit next to me once. Nothing happened there, but I don't know. We'll see. Maybe in the future.
Hey, how many books do you have down there?
Yeah,
I mean, I
sure.
think you've pulled out at least 6.
Uh, I've got Oh, this is a good one too, but this one's miracles. What to do
Ah,
when you
Okay.
need one. Um, but there's 7 or 8 here. There's this one on habits called "Make That Break That."
I've read that one.
I was just speaking the other day with James. Oh my gosh, Atomic Habits.
Clear.
it's clear.
James
Clear,
Clear.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I said, he was talking about his book, and he's like, "How many books have you written?" And I said, "I've written like 10." And he's like, "I've only written one." He said, "I don't know if I could ever write another one." I said, "Well, your one's done pretty well." He's like, "How many have you sold?" I said, "Well," I said, I don't like to just take all the credit myself. Like John Maxwell, I said, he just told you he's sold 36 million books. I said, I don't like to brag like that, but let's just say between John and I, we have sold over 36 million books. James has sold 10 million copies of that book, but
Really? 10 million?
yeah,
Wow.
and it's an incredible
It's a
book on
great
habits.
book.
And it came out around the same time as this. His just has done a little bit better. No, I've sold 10. He's sold 10 million, but
When that came
but
out, I don't know if you remember, we were at that men's group and Bible study. And you hand me one of those books, and I've read that book cover to cover. It's a great book.
yeah, Ed Milet told me just the other day. He said, I could this book right here. He said, I could not put this book down. He said, it's one of the best books on habits. I wanted it to keep going.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's pretty good comment from Ed.
Yeah.
And here's another key. People say, how do you get all these opportunities? And I help other people. You were talking earlier how you work with your team to
Yeah.
put their vision boards and help them reach the goals they want to go. I think if you
Right.
help as many other people get what they want, you'll get what you want, right?
Mhm.
Sowing and reaping is a life principle I live by. Any way I can help someone else, I know it's always going to come back to me. When I met Ed said, man, he said, you're friends with Joel Osteen. I said, I am. He said, I have been wanting to have him on my podcast. Do you think there's any way you could get Joel Osteen to do my podcast?
Mhm.
I said, well, let me see, because I've been trying for like 6 months to get him. Well, within 6 days, he was in the studio with Ed filming the podcast.
Wow.
And he said, man, he said, how'd you do that? I said, well, I'm friends with him, but I'm willing, because I know I'm willing to ask him to do it, because I've helped enough other people
Sure.
that I don't look at it like, well, I don't know, I wouldn't ask him. I don't know. I've helped him do a lot of things. He can help me. If we help each other do a lot of things,
Right.
we can all get a lot further.
Yeah.
And so I'm always ready to help someone else get what they want. And if I help them, then I'll always end up
Yeah.
getting where I'm supposed to be or end up.
Another great Zig Ziglar quote there, right? I mean, right?
Yeah.
Zig
Help enough
I
Ziglar.
was trying to
people
remember
you want,
exactly how he says
or
it. If you help
they want.
enough other people.
Get what they want. In return,
Mhm.
you'll get what you want. Yeah.
Oh, so basically, yeah, just
Yeah.
wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And I've listened to that
Maybe he got
episode.
that from me. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You were on after him. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
But that's a great episode, by the way. Ed Milet and Joel Osteen. I've listened to that one.
He's-
Ed Milet's he's one of my. He's on my vision board too. He's
Oh,
gonna
yeah?
be when I create it. Get back to it. Darn it! Why did I get away from that? That's so ridiculous. But,
Hey, sometimes we just need to be reminded, right? It's so easy
Yeah.
to get out of the habit of
right.
doing something, right? Get out of that habit cycle, and so how do we
Yeah.
develop get that habit loop, and creating reminders and that too, so we don't forget it.
Yeah, that just the consistency is the key to all of the great. Just doing things over and over and over, and on a daily basis, and not breaking that consistent loop, and
Don't break the chain.
don't break the chain.
When you
for
said
sure.
that you see bigger things when you're around big things, it just rings true to me. Because at the end of the day, like I love my family, I love my people, I love coming back home, and just a small bonfire with people. Like I don't need bougie stuff all the time, right? But when you're at a big conference and you're at a 5-star hotel, 5-star resort, your mind does, at least mine, just like Dave's, it starts ticking.
Mhm.
And you think
Yeah.
bigger, you want bigger, and I think that's why I love doing the things that we do and going traveling and meeting new people from different cultures because you learn so much.
Yeah.
That's what I love about Vegas. Doesn't Vegas just make you think big?
Yeah.
For sure.
And it helps you realize, there's not a lack of money in the world. There may be a lack of money in your pocket, but there's not a lack of money in the world.
No.
I mean,
No.
I was just out there. They've just spent what, 500 million for a 3-day race.
Yeah.
The F1.
Yeah.
There's no
But
shortage of money.
I break it down real simple. Like I said, grew up poor, Mississippi. And I'll never forget the first time we were out at a restaurant. We hardly ever went out to restaurants, but we were at a restaurant and my dad let me order a steak. I'd never had a steak. I'd had chicken. We'd had hamburger. We never had a steak at the house. But this day, my dad says, okay, son, you can order a steak. And I'll never forget that steak came out and I cut into my first steak, so tender and juicy. And I thought, this is amazing. And I had no clue that Denny's could make steak like that, right? And I thought, this is the best steak I've ever had.
Yeah.
I'm telling everyone, it was the best steak I'd ever had.
Because it's the
It was
only
the
one.
only
The
steak
only
I'd ever had.
And you told
And that
people
is
you had
as
Denny's
far
steak.
as my mind had ever been stretched.
Right.
But what is Oliver Wendell Holmes says, once your mind is stretched with a new idea, it can never regain its original dimension.
Yeah.
So I think Denny's has the best steaks for years until one day someone took me, years later, someone took me and I got a steak at Chili's. Oh, forget Denny's, man. Chili's is the place for steak. Chili's steaks are way better than Denny's. And for the longest time, I thought Chili's had the best steaks until one day someone took me to eat at this place called Ruth's Chris.
Yeah.
Well, forget Chili's and Denny's. My mind is stretched again. When your heart decides a destination, your mind will begin to design a map to get you there. So now my heart is like, man, this is where I want to be. So now my mind goes to work. How could you eat here more often? How could you get here more often? So always looking for ways to stretch my thinking past Denny's. I'm not going to eat a steak at Denny's anymore because now I've had one at Ruth's Chris and I've been other places that had even better ones than that. But it's like flying coach. I was happy to fly coach, just happy to be on the airplane. Growing up, I never even went on an airplane. But one day they messed up my flight and apologized and said, Mr. Martin, we messed up your flight. We're going to put you in first class. Well, I was fine sitting in coach. Didn't ever bother me until the day they put me in first class. Then the next time I'm back in coach, I'm like, this is horrible back here.
Sounds like
back
heaven.
hurts. This is miserable. What? Now my mind is like, how do you get up here more often? Well, I could, if I just fly this airline, I'll earn points and then they'll get free upgrades.
Right.
If I get a credit card with this airline, I could earn points and I could trade them in for upgrades. I could figure out how to make more money and buy a first class ticket. Well, once I get to there, now I'm like, I get to fly with John or Ed or someone on their plane. And I'm like, okay, how do I get here? Going into the FBO and jumping on a friend of mine that the steps went down the plane. They rolled out a red carpet there for us to get off the private jet. And he said that red carpet, that wasn't my idea, but I sure like it. Doesn't that feel nice getting up on that red carpet? But once your mind is stretched, I'm like, man, who wants to fly coach? Who wants to fly commercial when you can fly like that all the time?
Right.
And so you got to keep looking for ways to. Sometimes I'll take Solomon and just go up to the FBO at the private airport. Let's just sit in here for a little while. They'll let you sit in there for free. And we'll sit in there, have a cup of coffee, and just feel what it feels like. This is where people with private planes fly. Oh, wow, Dad, we got to do, this is what I want to. Yeah, you got to see it. You got to see it, son.
It's like, and for those that, may be listening and you're not there yet, I mean, some of the things you can do is just getting close to your dream and touch your dream and really is what you're talking about there. And maybe your dream is, and not that this is all about materialistic, but if your dream is to get into a bigger home so that all your kids have their own bedrooms and maybe their own bathrooms one day, well, you can just go drive into that sub and you can dream and you can get close to it to touch the dream so you can feel it. And those are the things I think that you're talking about is getting
put a picture on
close
your
to
dream
them.
wall.
And then what happens is ultimately then you meet other people that are closer to your dream, and they become part of your network, which becomes part of your net worth. And
Yeah. Well, the conversations that you have with
totally,
or the conversations you have or the conversations you hear with people at Ruth's Chris are
yeah,
different than the conversations you're going to have or hear with people at Denny's. The
100%.
conversations that you have in the FBO are going to be different than the ones you have in the terminal at Delta. And so part of that's all part of expanding your thinking. And like you said, it's not materialistic. You may not have a dream. On my first dream wall was the dream to give
Right.
$100,000,
Yeah, right.
not to make it, to give it. Now you got to make more than that to be able to give it.
Yeah.
But what my biggest dreams are not things. My son asked me today, he said, "Dad, could you buy a Bentley?" I said, "Could I? Yeah. Would I? Probably not. Why? I really don't need one." Think about this, son. We're trying to help these girls in Uganda right now. A big mission project we have, a charity project we do is keep a girl. We started called Keep a Girl in School.
Mm-hmm.
We found out these girls in Uganda were dropping out of school. 13-year-old, 12, 13, 14-year-old girls. Dropout rate just skyrocketed. What's causing this? Well, because of the poverty in a country like Uganda, they can't afford the feminine. So that's about 12, 13 is when their monthly cycle starts.
Yeah.
Well, these girls, because of poverty, they can't afford the sanitary pads and things that they need, so they miss school for a week. Well, the second month they have their cycle again. They miss school. By the third or fourth month, they're so far behind from missing that school that they end up dropping out.
Oh my
Well, in a
gosh.
country like Uganda, you drop out of school and the whole trajectory of your life changes because now you have no education. So here they are, 13, 14 years old. You understand, you got girls this age, Kevin. Could you imagine telling your daughter, "Hey, listen, you're going to have no education now, so you better go find a man, better go find a husband or someone to take care of you."
No.
And now here they are, 13, 14 years old, human trafficking, teenage pregnancy, AIDS. When we can keep a girl in school for about $100 for the year to give her the sanitary pads, the undergarments, the soap,
Right.
all those things. So for us, we can take care of a whole school for $5,000. So I said, "Son, we could buy $100,000 car. We could buy a $250,000 car. $100,000 car is not too bad. That gives us 150 now. And that's 50. What is that? I don't know how many schools that is. I can't think that quick. But that's how many schools of girls, how many hundreds of girls we could keep in school and change their whole life."
Right.
So
30 schools.
it's a different way of thinking.
Yeah.
And so now I'm looking at, do I need a bigger house? I've had big houses. Do I need this? Do I need that? Or could I help keep some more girls in school?
Right.
Could I help change the whole trajectory of someone's life through my generosity? So goals change, things change. Nothing wrong with big house or nice car.
Mhm.
I like all
Nope.
that. But what can I do to help someone else along the way as well? So
Yeah, that's super
so
fulfilling.
I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, that's really fulfilling. We took our family to Costa Rica last
Yeah, I remember that.
June, and just being able to build a house for a family that you couldn't even, people can't even relate to. They had 4 kids, and it was, I mean, it must have been 10 by 15. And he
Yeah.
was the baker of the community. So they had all that huge equipment in there, and that was hot, and they had one bed and cement floor. So to watch that was just awesome. And me and my son Gabriel, and we've been in Guatemala before on a mission trip and stuff. And the most rewarding thing you could do for us. It was awesome. It was great. Well, boy, you made this easy, and we
So
could go
easy.
for
I
hours.
see it ticking. We're already a little past.
Did I talk too much? I'm sorry.
Are
No,
you kidding
my
me?
gosh!
It's
Like, we
like
just
everything
really
we
wanna
asked
be,
for.
like, respectful of your time. We could go for another hour, and love to have you on again. But it was awesome, and you made it so easy for us because we basically just kind of sat back and listened and
The
learned.
amount of notes I got,
Yeah,
and it's recorded. I mean, come on, this is great.
yeah, it's great, and it, for me, what I got out of it the most is to expand my vision. You know,
Yeah.
just growing up, you know, some of my family would call me the golden boy just because everything seemed to go my way, but yet I guess you're the golden man because because it was still like I did see that, and and things did come my way, and I felt favor for sure.
Yeah.
But still, there's always room to expand the vision, and I appreciate you for that. It's been really
Well,
rewarding
thank you
and
guys
helpful.
for having me. Hope I added value to your listeners, and
So much.
I encourage them to make sure they subscribe and connect and keep listening to. I know you guys have great friends and opportunities to
Yeah.
have some great people, and so I know it's going to be a help to a lot of people.
Yeah. No, we really appreciate it, and we'll drop some links so they can connect with Dave.
Yeah. All the listeners need to absolutely at least buy one of the books. That's what I'm going to do after
Yeah.
this podcast today, and I'm excited to read it. And I'm a slow reader, so hopefully it's not, the pages aren't like too many words on each page. I don't think you
Don't buy
do
and
that to me.
make that break that. I'll give you that book. So buy a different one.
Okay, that sounds good.
And they're audiobooks too, if you want. So I can
As long
read
as
it
you're
to
narrating.
I
Do you
am.
do you
I
did
think
you did the narrating?
yeah, I've read them all. Yeah, I did
Oh, okay.
um, it's my voice on all of them.
Does that take a long time?
It probably takes 2-3 days in the studio.
Okay.
Not, that's not 8-hour days. That's probably 4 or 5 hours a day. So
Yeah.
I always
you
wondered
probably
that.
do it in a couple of days.
Cool.
Nice.
Thanks so much, Coach Dave. Appreciate you, man.
Thanks.
You're
again.
welcome. Thank
Really
you guys. I
appreciate
appreciate you
the-
having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. We'll be in touch, and shoot, we got to have lunch next door. I saw you yesterday, but
I know a great place.